there is an element of like, where's all the good music going? Like that Levine quote about the good music is going away. When you listen to good music on Spotify, actually, I was going to ask, do you use Spotify or do you use YouTube?
I do YouTube.
Okay, I did YouTube Music for a while, and then I switched to Spotify, and that's what we listen to in the car. And when looking at like when you use YouTube, are you listening to new stuff? Like, are you looking for new bands to groove to, or are you trying to listen to your classics?
It controls me and it tells me what songs I like. And they're getting older. They're getting older, so it is not new music. I'd have to overpower, and they're good at it too. I mean, they sing songs from 70s to 80s that I didn't even hear before, and I love them.
I did not know YouTube was doing that already. When we listen to Spotify, it now has an artificial intelligence DJ. Have you heard that?
No.
Okay. There is an AI DJ that will come on like a DJ, like every 3 songs or so, and they will come on and it has a voice, and it sounds like a normal person, although we know it's an AI.
I'm X, and from this moment on, I'm going to be your own personal AI DJ on Spotify.
And it will say, this is based on. Next up, I got a couple of songs from your best of '90s list, or it'll say, you've been grooving on this lately. Let me play you something similar, and almost always it's recommending older stuff, and it's getting to the point where, well, let's put it this way: if most new music coming out is the cookie cutter punch in nonsense, and most people who go over the age of 30, they like their old music anyway. Like naturally, that is the human trend,
Right.
and we'll explain why. Like, we're gonna get into the kind of the science of why that is. So the combination of new music actually does suck, and old music actually does make us happier. It's no wonder that, according to the Atlantic, 70% of the U.S. market is now old music, and that's never happened before. Like we've gone from there's half and half, or the radio is trying to hook you onto some new rock, but they're still going to play the stuff you like. There's a radio DJ who's like, okay, there's this new band, you've never heard of it, it's called the Beatles, but they're touring England right now, you got to hear this. No, that's going away entirely. 70% of all music on the market right now is just old stuff, to the point where, as of writing this episode, the most downloaded tracks on iTunes have things like Creedence Clearwater Revival and The Police on them.
And those people those are boomer music.
It is
right?
boomer music. That's my point. Is like,
Yeah,
and it's
that's
not
older than me. Yeah, that music is.
And it's not just boomers who like it and are downloading it, and they represent such a huge market. It is younger people listening to older music because the new stuff coming out is punching in, or spiritually punching in. I keep using that term. What I mean is, it's people producing music fast and cheap, and they're not writing it, and they're not putting as much love into it. So like, you
Doesn't
get people going back to looking for old stuff.
Doesn't it seem like, that's very interesting? Doesn't it seem like these shows, American Idol, The Voice, are trying to push new artists and try to create stars? Or is that just content for TV and just it's more of a tension drama reality show?
I think it is just reality show, but I also believe that when they create new artists, a lot of those new artists, they're not singing their own stuff up on Idol and The Voice. They're singing old songs.
Yeah, they are singing Clearwater Revival.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that.
It's Katy Perry telling somebody, wouldn't it sound great if you did this Mariah Carey song from 20 years ago?
That's a great point.
The 200 most popular tracks now regularly account for less than 5% of total streams, meaning that the new stuff coming out is a smaller and smaller part of the pie of what we're listening to. So even if you're thinking of, well, what about the good stuff? The most popular tracks coming out, the good stuff, the cream of the crop, the writers who are actually doing their job in music, their stuff comes out and it accounts for less than 5% of people streaming, and that's lower, like by half than what it was before 3 years ago. So like, it's new stuff is becoming a smaller and smaller slice.
And this is life changing. Okay, so for as long as life has been, everyone has liked music that they liked when they were in high school.
Yeah.
And they've liked that their whole lives. And they hated their parents' music and they hated their kids' music. Isn't that true?
That's because you're all rotten children. No.
Right.
It is absolutely true. Do
You hate
can we?
both of those. It was
Yeah.
too new and didn't make any sense. It was just noise, or it was old and stupid.
I like to take credit for I actually did stop and listen to my parents' music and decided what I did and didn't like there. But you're right. There was. It doesn't matter how much music appreciation you have in you. Let's actually, can we walk through the lifespan of music appreciation? Like what are the eras of your life with music? And you can tell me how close this is to your experience, Todd.
Please.
Um, these numbers were put out by the European streaming service Deezer, who did a survey that was pretty extensive. But this is also backed up by, like, I read a cracked article that like cited several colleges that basically said the same thing. New music discovery, like, okay, so when we are in our teens, we are usually starting to put away our parents' music. We are rediscovering old music. My cousin, who is like, when she was a teenager, she was listening to like Hendrix and things like that. She was going back and looking at what existed. But also that's around the time where you start listening to pop, like whatever. If you're in high school, it is, I think you go to high school and you sign a contract that says you'll listen to the garbage that's coming out right now and you'll pretend to like it, like
well, because you're trying to fit in. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to listen to the new stuff.
Being different doesn't pay well in high school, so
No.
get you beat up.
No, if you want to be different, you dress in goth and you listen to The Cure, which is what everyone else is listening to. If you're trying to be different, so if you're a teenager, you get into pop and the more popular music, the stuff that is appealing to more people. But that's not the discovery period. The true discovery period in people's lives of music, according to the survey, peaks around 24. So, like, as we get older and into our mid-20s, we start learning how to find music ourselves. We go looking for it. We
That's when
download it.
You go to concerts, right?
You go to concerts.
Yeah.
You go looking through if you're in Portland and you're going to Music Millennium, you go through old records. You start investigating. You're almost like an investigator of your own musical tastes, and that peaks at about 25. That's when everybody finds like more actually deep bands and bands that are their lyrics are really meaningful and you're listening to stuff that is like speaks to your heart. After that, it starts to stagnate. At 31, our tastes start locking in. We stop wanting to hear mainstream stuff quite as much. Like, we actually have decided the stuff we investigated in our mid-20s, that's what we're sticking with. And Spotify put out a study in 2014 which shows that this basically is what they bank on is when your tastes continue to deviate from the mainstream as you age. So the older you get, there's like a graph. It's a line going in a slope, and it's as you age, here's the less you like new stuff and the less you like, mainstream.
I could just see this old radio station and the staff aging, how you're describing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how they're changing. They're these young, hot people. Now they're kind of going middle age. And now...
Right. So the older you are, the less likely you are to like Dua Lipa or score her highly, or any new artist, regardless of their age and talent. If you are older, you're less likely to think Taylor Swift has any talent whatsoever, even though she, just by the numbers, has to have talent. The older you get and the further away from your exploration age, your mid-20s age where you did all that investigating in music, the older you get, the further you get away from that exploration, the more you just kind of want to hear stuff you like. And that's where we start getting into, unfortunately, basically what Facebook and YouTube and all social media does for our words and values and thoughts. It does the same thing for our music, which is it bubbles us. If you go onto Spotify, nobody is going onto Spotify who is over the age of 50 and saying, I want to listen to 50 new songs this month to find out what my tastes really are. That doesn't happen. People who are older, they're getting onto Spotify and they're saying, where can I listen to Creedence Clearwater and the Police?
Yeah. That scares me even thinking about it. Even a fraction of that, I wouldn't do it. You know,
Yeah.
and I tried to do it for this show, trying to listen to songs, and I just didn't like it. It reminded me of, like I said, when I was younger, trying to explore my dad's music, and it just made me so uncomfortable for so long.
Right. And this is happening at every age. Like it is, Spotify will, if you ask it to, it will funnel you new songs in certain genres. So there's a little bit of play. Like you can tell it, in my feed I want X amount of new songs, or you can set it to where, like, I want to hear uh, um more rap from the 90s, but I don't want it to be stuff that I've added to the list personally. And the AI DJ will literally do that. It will funnel you the music that you want to hear. um but nobody's really doing that. Like if you if you're in the higher ages, like if you're in the 50 to 60 age bracket, you are far less likely to hit that button that will give you new stuff that you haven't heard before. It will just give you, here's the I mean, literally, here's the
Well,
40
yeah,
songs for albums you already own. And you're just
yeah, and
using a platform to
that's
do
what
it.
they want, though, right?
Yeah. um and this kind of digs into, like, this is important. Like this bubbling effect is kind of why rap is losing story. It's also why other music is losing story. Like, the reason why we're going away from storytelling is about this platform bubbling effect. So we'll get to that, but first we want to kind of prove that it's not just rap punching in. It is all music punching in, and everybody is following this model, except maybe Taylor Swift and Kendrick Lamar. Um, so do you want to talk about Dua Lipa?
Yeah, Dua Lipa. I wasn't a big fan of her until I started doing this research. You sent me my homework, and Dua Lipa, pop mainstream, right? About
Super mainstream, yeah.
as it gets. Um, her writing thing is she does a punch in similar. So what she'll do is she will have a premise for what she wants the album to be about, and a certain kind of energy, and it's but very vague.
Yeah.
And so she'll reach out to the musician side. This is the part that just about all this that just shocked me. I was convinced, I would have sworn on a Bible, the core value I thought of music is you write lyrics and then you put a catchy, hooky beat rhythm to it.
Right.
But I think it's about the opposite. A lot of musicians work better off. And what she does when she gets together with her team is she brings in a lot of diverse, different kinds of people. And she'll reach out to the musician, the composer, this guy's an expert in all different musicians. And she just kind of talks. It's very hippie like, Joe, like, like, so
Jam
it isn't
session.
about this structured, beautiful poetry like the Kendrick Lamar, where I think he did a great job of describing that. Something that's dense and it makes you feel something. And in 3 minutes, that's not easy to tell a story in 3 minutes, right? It takes you 10,000 words to tell a story. Can you imagine telling a
Right.
story that moves people in 3 minutes, especially about something as complicated as love or loss of love? So they take everyone's opinion in, they get in, and she just kind of scats off the mic. So it's not real lyrics. It's just kind of pop off her head. It's almost like improv. They get in a mood, they get together, and then they lay it down.
Improv scatting is a really good way to put it. When I first listened to this, it kind of blew my mind that there wasn't actually any lyrics. Like, not writing. There
Yeah,
are
they're
there's
just words. They're just words.
they're
There's
just
just
sounds.
English.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not. We can't express that enough. There is no story.
We will, because we can't play clips of it, we will link to the Song Exploder episode that does this. There's an episode of Song Exploder where they go in and they record them recording her song Levitating, and like they play her music, the producers do, and like she has it in her head, and it's the first time she's heard the music they've made for her. It's almost like a your cat bringing you a dead mouse. Like it's they present her music, she puts on the
Yes.
headphones, and the first time she hears it, she starts the scatting. and it's like, and she's doing this very fast because she's trying to figure out what the pace of the lyrics has to be to match the tone. And so she's discovering the tone long before they ever decide on what the words are going to be. And she even says that in the episode. She's like, she uses a phrase, "my sugar boo," and she's like, we just call each other that in the studio. It's like friend thing. And it's like so like these don't mean anything, and they never did. And most of music is being produced that way. I'm sorry I'm getting so excited about this, but it was
Well, no,
crazy to like, yeah.
it was. I think the thing that I really respected about her was the different, like when she's laying this down and he's got all these ideas and he's throwing them at her, and then when something lands, like one of her one of her entourage will yell out, "That's amazing," or something. I mean, it's just very unprofessional. It's
Yeah.
just very, it's kind of this, again, it's very hippie. It's kind of like everybody has a say. And I did think that, like, I do see the strength in, different from the rap side. She has a genuine appreciation for her team and having everyone do what they're really good at. She's really
Yeah.
good at singing. They're really good at musicians. They're really good at this kind of stuff. And to put that all together and then listening to the songs, unlike the hip hop rap, I thought it sounded beautiful.
Yeah. Well, that's something I was thinking about. Is it is hard to listen to this and be mad about the complete abandonment of writing, but like the music and like what comes out of it. Like that's what I'm saying is you can produce really good music, but what it is you're producing good tones and good song and good audio. You're not producing a story, or you're not producing something that is going to stick with you. I honestly, I've listened to now, because of that episode and because of this research, I have listened to Levitating probably a couple dozen times. I don't know what it's about. like story wise, I can't tell you what the context is, but I
Well,
like the song.
and that's what shocked me, because I thought what moved you, and because speech writing with you, doing this show, I thought that words move people, and they do. But what I kind of took out of this was the emotion part is the music.
Yeah.
That's so they replaced that from the, the Smokey Robinson, Berry Gordy, the Motown solids, where they had to say something and then it was catchy music. This music actually gets emotional, chemical feeling in you. I am so, what the part, I want everyone to watch this link because it's very entertaining. And she won my heart when she said this. She talked about her biggest compliment as a musician, as a creator, is when she finds out that parents are becoming big fans of her when their kids are playing their music and they overhear it. I thought that was the sweetest thing.
I adore that. And well, that's because the kids are acting as the radio DJ. The kids are like, you're going to listen to this 3 times at least.
But can't you just see that gray middle-aged, is kind of cranky going to work and taking the kid to school, and they're like, well, let's hear that again,
Yeah.
without, and then they play it the rest of the day. They're playing it at work. I think that's great.
Before he passed, my dad was into Lady Gaga. And when he revealed that to me, I was like, Dad, what? And he's like, oh, well, my
That's
yeah, he had
awesome.
he had somebody who would come over and help like do caretaking, because like his mind was, he wasn't able to keep track of bills and stuff as well. And so like she'd be listening to Lady Gaga and he'd hear it like 3 or 4 times and he'd be like, yeah, I've been listening to Poker Face a lot. I'm like, what?
I love that.
But to compare what you just said, the way you phrase that is perfect. This is a way of making an audio medium that just puts raw emotion into you. It's Dua Lipa is not trying to write something that is going to be remembered for 100 years for its thought density and poetry. This is just an emotion. Like you listen to the song, you get an emotion from it. It makes you happy and it makes you like amused, and then it passes, which is a pure thing. Like that. This is like comparing Kendrick Lamar is Rembrandt. He is painting something that is detailed, intricate, and tells you something very specific in a very vivid way. Dua Lipa is just doing Starry Night. Like it's here's an emotion you get.
Mm-hmm.
It can be abstract and it can be bright, and then it doesn't have to mean much. Like it doesn't have to have that density.
I like that too, because the more dense, and then I think about the 60s music that was like the anti-war, let's change the world, that was storytelling. But sometimes life is already serious enough. You don't want to watch the news or listen to the news. You want to Just relax and not have to think too hard.
Right. So what we found out is some of the absolute top artists are using punching in. It's making good artists quick, and it's been making them more efficient because they can convey an emotion very well, especially if they have a good team and good experience and good producers behind them. But it's also making it much faster, much easier for people to put out vast amounts of mediocre content. Punching in and this method of storytelling that abandons storytelling is a way to produce we're now at the part of the show where we reveal why the monetary part of it rewards quick, fast, cheap song making. So can we talk about Spotify and how it's kind of killing rap?
Please.
Okay. So we mentioned how if you go on a long car trip, Spotify is going to recommend old songs about 70% of the time, almost to that degree. 30% of the time, if left to its own device, your radio DJ will come in and say, now we're going to listen to something new. But the something new, it's picking from stuff that is like genre matching. It is saying, oh, you like 90s Eminem as a rapper. So here is somebody new who kind of sounds a bit like him, has the same kind of tune. Not really. They're punching it in. They're almost like they're an off-brand. I can't believe it's not Butter of Eminem, but we're gonna play it once and you're gonna forget it. And if you don't, if you click the like button, maybe you'll hear it again later. And the reason for that existing is new artists aren't getting paid. They're making like their revenue is like pennies on like I think it's a fraction of a cent on a listen. So when that new stuff comes through that doesn't sound all that great, they're
Literally
not
pennies.
yeah, literally fractions of pennies. And yet streaming services is harvesting vast amounts of revenue from them. So like streaming services are using the vast amounts that new artists are putting out, and they're using that money to make themselves pretty wealthy.
And paying the prostitutes just a tiny sliver, like
Yeah.
a name in the credits, pretty much, right?
Right. Streaming, if you want to compare dollars to donuts, streaming services like Spotify and YouTube, they represent 84% of all music revenue right now. So like,
And why
that to
this is so
albums,
different is
yeah,
the obvious, right? Albums, tapes, right? There's no
radio,
production
yeah,
of anything. It's just digital, right? So there's not they're not promoting it except on their thing, right? That their cost for promotion is minimal
yeah.
too.
That's exactly right. Streaming services are getting bigger and bigger. More and more people are just exclusively listening to their music through streaming services. Their profits are freaking skyrocketing. If you look at how much these streaming services are making, it is crazy. Like everybody wants and needs music. That's just it. If you're human, you need music at some point. And these people are making the kind of money that you would expect a utilities company who gives you air and water to make. And yet they're paying artists less and less. Artists are paid less than 0.1% per stream on Spotify. Although Spotify itself tripled in value during the COVID pandemic, and it has not increased its artists' payout. Streaming platforms like Spotify don't pay artists who are featured on a platform. Instead, so the reason why they don't make money, nobody goes to Spotify and signs a contract with Spotify. Nobody shows up with their like Todd and I made 10 rap songs, all bad, and we go to Spotify and we say Spotify would like you to feature these. They're not going to sign a contract with us. We have to sign with a record label, an intermediary, and then that record label takes a cut, and then they sign with Spotify, and then that's how the money gets funneled. It's not just, we're not dumb for signing through an intermediary like a record label. It can't be done unless we do that. There are people who directly license their stuff, and there are people who basically become their own intermediary. For example, Lady Gaga has a contract with her record label saying that she earns nothing from her licenses. And there are artists who specifically make it to where they earn less. Like they'll take a smaller payout from Spotify so that they're featured more. It is something Spotify will do for you. If you basically say, I don't
Right.
want the money, I just want to show up in everybody's
And
I
that
want the DJ to say my name more often too.
and that will help with my concerts, that will help with my merchandise. But then the thing is, how do you get famous without? I would say, well, why would anyone do that if they're not going to get paid? It's like, well, you'll never get any exposure. People will never know about you because there's
right. If I just listen to not great off-brand Eminem, I'll never listen to him again, and they'll never get more exposure unless they agree to that deal, unless they agree to take less money. And that's what a lot of people are doing is these struggling artists who are already receiving a fraction of a cent for a play, they're taking the deal to make less money if they really mean it, if they really want to like make it in the industry. And what you end up with is a model where you can't be Queen or you can't be like Bob Dylan, where you only release, an album every, year or two, or like you can't release just a song every, 6 months or whatever. You can't take the time it takes to become Kendrick Lamar and write things that mean that much and are that detailed. You have to cut a song every day. Like you have to go in and record, like you said, sit down and punch in 8 songs in a single session so you can space them out over the week so that Spotify will actually play you and you'll earn enough money to eat and to have rent.
But
it
if
is
you were to do the old way and not punch in, you just wouldn't stay engaged with people. There wouldn't be. It would dry up. You have to start over, right?
right, exactly. And there are platforms that if you aren't constantly producing material, you get disincentivized. Your numbers go down if you're not putting out new material every week, to the point where they make you less searchable. Like the algorithm picks other people who are constantly putting out material or who are more popular.
But that's rewarding speed and volume and not quality. It's still an art. Yeah.
Exactly.
You would think that there'd be some kind of a thumbs up, thumbs down, or buckets for quality musicians, people who've been playing instruments and rhyming and rapping their whole life, right?
Well,
I mean,
well,
geez, always.
the problem is there's no Spotify button for artistry, or I appreciate the level of skill that went into that. There's only a like button. and the problem with that is that
There should be.
yeah, when I first started listening to Spotify, I hate Drake. I don't know if I've mentioned this ever to you, the rapper Drake.
You and Kendrick Lamar.
I heard about that. No,
Why?
he's a wishy-washy Canadian rapper who like who his music is bland. Like I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
There's he's not the only one. There's a lot of music that I find just intolerably bland. It doesn't
he really bothers you. Let's stick with him. What do you like about him? I like this.
Well, when I first started my Spotify account, it recommended a lot of Drake songs. It was like, oh, you're into some rap, some rock, some country, some everything, a little bit of everything. It looked at my choices, this huge diversity of choices. I'm listening to like Chicago one day, and then I'll switch over to like Black Sabbath because I went to the tour, and then randomly it will just give me Drake, and then like I'll listen to like I'll tell it no Drake, thumbs down. I'll listen to a bunch of other stuff, and it will give me Drake again. And what I found out, and it would drive me insane, I was getting very mad. Like I was honestly like I'd be working on something, like I'm writing for a contest or I'm doing woodworking, and Drake would start playing and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And I found out that the more people like a musician, the more likely Spotify is to recommend it to you, just because he has a lot of plays. And it's like if everybody the more popular somebody gets, the more likely it is to recommend that person to other people, which boosts their popularity. So it's a feedback loop. It's this person has 1 million likes. Okay, well let's see if everybody else likes him too.
And that's the thing. So they're getting more votes, so it doesn't matter who you voted for. Your votes try to get it right now. They're saying, no, you got to listen to this again, and you'll get it. It's just going to take you a little bit longer.
Right. But that's what leads to we've talked about the democratization of different platforms. What this leads to is the same thing as every other industry is the top, five artists are making all the money. Everybody else below that makes fractions upon fractions the lower you go. In reality, it's, everybody is propping up this Spotify platform, or just the music platforms in general, like YouTube, but it's only incentivizing the absolute top of the pyramid. Like,
But this is what I don't understand, Joe. You think that this poor quality and then this ocean of content, and I'll tell you the difference on what I see when you see these platforms, the Hulus, the Netflix, the shows that they produce and create on their own platforms are great.
yeah,
I mean, some of these series are bigger budgets than major motion pictures. And so that seems like that would be more sustainable than this. Why is this different? Is it because it's just 3 minutes of your time at a the pieces of the pie?
it's because it's similarity. It's, if you watch something amazing on Netflix that they produced, what are you gonna do after that? Well, they've got 3 more shows that are pretty similar, but are really not great.
Oh, that's why they'll bunch those two. Well, you like this, so
Yeah,
this will keep you going until we get our next series, right?
right. If you liked the Great British Bake Off, well, here's one about tattoo artists. It's basically the same. If you liked Eminem, here's a guy that kind of sounds like him. I don't know.
But the standard's still a little bit higher, right? Or they're just this just seems doomed to fail. It would seem like a streaming service that put quality over likes, that had some kind of way. It seems like it would take over, right?
Well, that's what's happening is what we see. It's people stop listening to the new stuff because the new stuff sucks. People eventually just listen to Drake, or people eventually listen to the Police or Creedence Clearwater. Like, people just listen to, here's the good thing that Spotify tells me everybody else likes, so I'll just stick with that. And the people who are trying to break into the industry, they either have to choose to be mediocre and be fast to make money, like to make money enough to survive, or they choose to be Kendrick Lamar and they just don't make money. They don't get seen or heard until they've been in the industry until they produce so much material that they can't be ignored.
Gotcha.
And this is such a problem. The pay algorithm for this. In 2022, France's recording industry signed an agreement that all artists would be paid a minimum amount proportionate to their quantity of streams. And so France became the first major market to set a minimum streaming royalty into law. Like they basically said, if you have this many songs being played on these platforms and they get this many listens they need to be paid. Like, you can't just ignore them and pay Drake more money because just because, like,
they're entertaining your customers too.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, no, they got X amount of listens, they deserve a minimum pay for this amount. You can't just pay them pennies because they're supporting your platform. You're supporting, they're the bottom rungs of the Drake Eiffel Tower where he is at the very peak. They're like, no, you can't just pay them nothing. And this is something that is like being carried over into there's a people are demanding more transparency in Spotify's algorithms with their discovery tool. And the discovery tool is how artists and labels get prioritized. So if you click the discovery tool, that's the thing that where you find new music. And there are people who are arguing that those practices, the way they run their discovery tool, the way it's opaque, like it's not visible to anybody, it's discriminating against smaller labels and artists who can't afford to take less royalties, who can't say, I don't need the money, just give me more time on the platform. So there's a lot of, I mean, like, there's literally other countries making laws against what Spotify is doing to us, which is just feeding us more of the same and driving away artists who try to write and promoting, and the only people who can make money is Drake and then like the 10,000 people who are punching in. I don't want every episode to turn into me tirading about whatever corporation is doing evil stuff behind something that annoys me personally.
You didn't cross the line. This was good for most. This was good for you. This wasn't bad.
Yeah,
I've seen you worse.
This is all right. Yeah.
Well, Daniel Elk, to take over on Spotify front.
Yeah,
he's the CEO. He's worth about $5 billion. and he's got a solution for all this. Okay. The economic model, they have it set up with a streaming service. Bigger artists backed by the labels, the major labels, they dominate these services. So they're getting most of the plays. Okay, they have
the Drakes.
The Drakes, the people, the Miley Cyruses, the people who have the major record deals, who have already gone through the record ranks and got signed by by whoever, right? I don't know, the different companies. So it's similar to the old days when the producers, the production people at the radio stations would tell us what songs to play. But Daniel Elk, the billionaire who owns Spotify, he knows how to solve this. He said there's no way he doesn't want to ever give any further assistance to the artists through increased royalty rates. He doesn't want to pay them more. That's not the solution. He says, and this is a quote, the artists today are making it realize that it's about creating continuous engagement with their fans. It's about putting the work in, about the storytelling around the album, and about a continuous dialogue with your fans. And the translation, the message into this, never stop making new music.
Right. When he says engagement, what he means is my platform needs you to make 1,000 songs for every 3 years of service. That's crazy.
You're sing yourself to death, right?
Right. So yeah, that is proof that he wants artists to do this. He is saying that artists shouldn't make more money for each song. They just need to put in more work, and they need to produce at the rate that we were maligning at the start of this episode. We started by complaining about people punching in and making 8 songs in one sitting, and Spotify CEO Daniel Elk is saying that's what you have to do to
just
be
love
on
when
the platform.
People with $5 billion pay people percentages of pennies.
Yeah.
And justify it. I love it.
Yeah. I don't know how else to take that. Like it is not a good time to be a musician. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, if you are a listener of music, it's fine. Like, just listen to old stuff and you'll be good. Like, what is your solution? Like, that's the only thing I can think of is like, there's no solution to that except for we need a different platform to support artists that isn't Spotify. And
it's just changed so much. And then what I have noticed is it's made going to concerts ridiculously expensive. And it's hard. So it's just a different way, but then you get all this music for free too, and I do listen to more music. I listen to more than I used to when I just had tapes or records or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I think if I could possibly do this, let's end this episode by answering the original question. Your question to me was, is rap less about storytelling? The answer is rap is less about storytelling. All music is less about storytelling. And it's because David Elk doesn't want to pay storytellers to put out 2 songs a year that mean something. He wants to pay artists pennies per song, and is encouraging them to put out 100 songs a year, basically.
I know what I'm getting you for your wedding gift.
What's that?
Concert tickets to Drake and Austin live.
Oh, God damn it.
You've been listening to The Re-Engineered You. Thank you so much for listening to the show. You mean the world to us. We have a new episode every week.
You can connect with us at www.re-engineeredyou.com. That's where we have research links, show notes, feedback, and blog articles for each of our episodes.
We're not experts in anything, but we've got an opinion on everything.